Hello everybody, we're back at UKG 2024. I'm over at the Free League stand and I'm joined by Matthew to find out what they've been up to in that little den of madness that is Stockholm. So I see in front of us we have a board game, which isn't usually what I expect to see on a Free League stand.
Yeah, no, we're role-playing, aren't we? That's what people know us for. We've done a couple of board games in the past. I would argue this is a kind of cross between a board game and it's a skirmish game. Miniatures, gorgeous little miniatures that are playable straight out of the box. You can see this little wash we've given them that brings out the stuff. Of course, you can paint them as well. And this is Zone Wars, Mutant Zone Wars, based on our Mutant Year Zero system. It uses the same dice, but it is a lot more gamey. And we've been running demos here. They've been really popular. In this particular scenario, you're kind of scavenging for ruins. The idea is not to get into a fight, but fights do happen because there are gangs and factions and things like that. All of this, what you see on the table there, is, broadly speaking, apart from two of the teams, what you get in your starter box. But we're selling the starter box, and we're also selling an expansion with two more factions which are on the table and a bunch more scenery which isn't on this demo table, and it's going really well. We had a pile about 3 times as high as this on Friday, and people who don't necessarily think of Free League about board games and skirmish games are definitely getting into Zone Wars. But we've got plenty of role-playing games as well. Can I take you around the other side and show you those?
Oh God, yes. I'm really happy to see Zone Wars out and about. I got my Kickstarter copy through about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So really interesting system, nice looking sculpts as well. And even though it's not a system and background I'm familiar with myself, which is the Mutant Year Zero, it didn't stop me from picking it up because, like you say, the miniatures were gorgeous and the system's really nice.
You definitely don't need to know the role-playing game to play the system, and it's a great introduction. And of course, one of the things that happened in the weird world of licensing, we at Free League don't actually own the license for Mutant. It's one of the oldest role-playing licenses in Sweden, and we license it. And don't quote me on this, he says on video, I think it's Embracer that own the license. And because this is the first game we in Free League made, and we radically changed the aesthetic of Mutant in a way that people liked, and a video games company went to Embracer and said, can we use this aesthetic for a great video game? And then there was going to be a skirmish game based on that, but that never happened. And so, but it still seemed to us to be a good idea. So this is almost, the skirmish game is more like the video game than the role-playing game, but we do use our role-playing mechanics in it as well, so there's a little hint there if you are familiar with our system.
Yeah, never push your luck on the black dice because your equipment will just go away.
Yeah.
But do so on the yellow dice because you'll end up with all sorts of fun mutations, which is always good, clean family fun. Speaking of licenses, you obviously have some massive ones.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings and the One Ring is huge.
So of course this is a big seller. This table was stacked high with games at the beginning of the show, and now we've just got our demonstration. And we've got two varieties. We've got the One Ring, which, being honest, is the one you should play.
Yes.
But if you've got a group that won't leave D&D 5th edition, then we've also got Lord of the Rings, which is our 5th edition version. And frankly, it does a really good job of turning the game of heroic superheroes that D&D is into a game of hope versus despair, which is what the One Ring is really about.
Yeah, I really like the mechanics in the One Ring as well. The core set is absolutely gorgeous, from the actual sort of mini campaign leading you from the Shire and outwards to the little character packs that really introduce you to all of the characters in there. And I love the journey system.
Yeah.
Can you see the bar mats there, which are not actually for coasters, but that journey system that you have where you have to decide who's the scout, who's the leader, who's foraging and everything else is so interesting because it gives everybody in the party impetus, where sometimes you get one person who goes, I'm going to be in charge, and everybody else follows them like ducklings behind a mother.
Absolutely. I'm playing in a campaign of this now, and I've got to say I'm not the biggest Tolkien nerd in the world, so the world is, I read the books when I was young, I've watched the movies, but I don't know some of the knowledge to the depth that some of my fellow players do. But yeah, everybody participates in the journey. It really feels dramatic as you walk across land sometimes, and there's some great incidences. Talking, again, is always better than combat in this game. Yes. Combat can get really deadly really quickly, and you can acquire lots of shadow. And it's funny, these bar maps, they come in the starter kit. There's not much about the journey or fighting, because the other half of this is about the fighting side, in the starter kit, because you're all playing hobbits in the Shire. Who wants fighting in there? But as you journey out of the Shire, things get a lot darker, and so that's really useful to use with the core book when you graduate to that.
Yeah. But then my own personal favourite, the baby, the darling, pretty much in a year where people are celebrating the anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, the Dragonbane or Draka och Demoner from Sweden. This is their version of D&D. This is what spawned the role-playing community in Sweden.
In Sweden, and in a big way. So obviously there were the copies of English versions of Dungeons and Dragons filtering into Sweden from the late 70s, obviously. But in 1981, somebody said, we need a game in Swedish. And they licensed basic role-playing initially, and Magic World, which was something that Chaosium produced. So not a lot of people think it's RuneQuest because of the ducks.
Yes.
But it's not quite RuneQuest, it's different. And of course, over the years, it's been iterated and iterated. So I think you can say it's a different game now. But if you're familiar with basic role-playing, and particularly with Pendragon, because it's now D20, then you'll feel at home here. And yeah, when we acquired the license, well, we didn't acquire the license, I think we bought the whole IP. The intention was to give it back to the Swedes, because a lot of the Swedish community, which birthed Free League, were kind of feeling a little bit left behind when, Alien only comes in English, BladeRunner, all that sort of stuff. And this was a game that was for Sweden. I run a podcast, and I remember writing upon hearing the announcement to Thomas, who's the big boss. Let's interview you about Draka och Demoner. And he said, no, I don't want to interview. This isn't going to be in English. And then by the time the Kickstarter happened, there was going to be an English version. It's really popular. And I've got to say, I'm in selling mode now.
No, feel free.
This box, the heaviest box, feel the value in this box. Everything here comes in this box. So it's not like a D&D starter kit. I keep slacking off D&D here. It's not like any starter kit. It's not a stripped-down version of the rules. It's the whole rule book. It's not just the whole rule book. It's a solo adventure to get you started. It's all these beautiful standees of the wonderful illustrations we've got in there. It's other stuff as well. It's the cards. It's the dice. What you're seeing on this table, it's not the dice mat, and it's not the all rolled up. They come from all rolled up just across the way here. But it's pretty much everything else. So if you've got a young kid that's just been hearing about role-playing or just started watching Critical Role and wants to get into it, this is the game they should have. It's not a cut-down version, it's not a starter kit, it's the whole game, and frankly, it's everything you need for years of role-playing. Such amazing value. And what is that value? It's only 40 quid. It's a bargain.
By Grabthar's hammer, what a savings. It is an absolutely stunning piece of kit, but then there's other things like the bestiary, and that bestiary's absolutely spanking.
A lot of our audience don't need all of this because they've been collecting dice for many years. Maybe they just want the rules. So we've now got the rules in hardback, and we've just brought out the bestiary in line with that as well. The bestiary's got loads of monsters. It's written in a really playful style, sort of in-world, brilliantly done. But obviously, if you've got the starter kit and you're loving your standees, you might want all the new standees for the bestiary, so we've got those as well here. So you can still carry on with, and there's more battle maps on the other side too.
I hadn't realised they'd done the standees for that. I love that the bestiary has a really nice touch where every monster is sort of explained in a double-page spread, along with story hooks and like a quick intro, so you can either have a mini adventure spawned off one, or you can just have a little, if you want to drop it in as an encounter as you wander along, and that's just a beautiful way of doing it. Yeah,
and that's a lot about the Free League philosophy. Lots of our games don't necessarily have fully structured campaigns and scenarios. Lots do. So obviously in BladeRunner, which is a detective game, you've got to kind of know who done it, or the GM does. We like to do what we call adventure sites and things like that you can just plug together, and it becomes a really procedural journey. And so I'm really hoping that Dragonbane is going to be really big. We've got a Chinese company across the way from us. They are already licensing the One Ring. That's their big project. But I'm trying to say, look, there's this massive market of new gamers in China, and this is the game they want to learn.
Speaking of Blade Runner, if we just finish with that, because there have been some big announcements recently about Blade Runner as well. There's more campaigns,
So I was talking about Blade Runner being a police procedural, and you need to know who done it. But the next release of Blade Runner is going to turn that entirely on its head. We're going Replicant Rebellion. We're kind of going punk. We're going heavily graffiti. We got Johan Noor, who of course is the brilliant creative mind behind Morkborg. He's doing illustrations for this. It's going to look really different. Maybe not as noir as Blade Runner fans are wanting, but it's going to show the seedy underbelly of the city in a whole new light. A more colourful light, I'm going to suggest. And it's going to be really interesting. It takes the Blade Runner franchise, I think, in a brand new direction.
Well, that does sound fascinating. I have this. I have Fiery Angels as well, which is the campaign expansion.
I think we've already sold out of.
I wouldn't be at all surprised because it's an amazing set. So I'm really keen. They only announced the Replicant Rebellion a couple of days ago, I think it was, before we landed here at the UKGE. So keep my eyes peeled for that. It's always great catching up with you because there's always so much going on, and we haven't even covered half of the RPGs on the stand. People really need to check out Vesen because that is just to die for. But we're going to move on and see what else is here at the Expo.
I'm going to direct you to my podcasting partner who's nearby and has got some special news about what he and I are doing that isn't related to Free League at all, except we're licensing their system.
Oh, right. Well, we will track him down and be back soon. Take care.
Thank you.